We are live. We are live. We are live. What's going on, good people? I hope you're safe. I hope you're well wherever you are. It's your podcast mentor, Jonathan Jones. And today I want to dive in just a little bit. And I want to make sure that before you dive in and decide to say, I'm going to start this podcast, I'm going to get on this podcast journey, I want to make sure that you understand just some basic preliminary things. So in this video, I want to cover today 5 things that you need to know before you make the decision to start your podcast. All right. 5 things that you need to know before you make the decision to say, I'm going to start the podcast. I'm going to do this thing because this is something I want to do. But most importantly, because you have the information that you need to really take it to the next level. So before we dive in, I want you to hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching anywhere else, on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever it might be, share with a friend, tag somebody else, get somebody else in here. Don't be stingy with that information. All right. So if we're on YouTube, we want to make sure to like and to subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be updated with everything that I cover. And our channel on YouTube is Jonathan Jones Speaks. And here we talk about the latest and greatest information with podcasting, but also showing you how you can start, how you can launch, and then ultimately how you can monetize your podcast platform. All right. So I wanted to do this video because I know for some time I've been telling a lot of people that they should start their podcast. Okay. Like it's no secret about it. Why my camera not wanting to be in focus right now? There we go. I've been telling a lot of people that I think you should start a podcast. It's essential you start a podcast for your business, right? It's essential that you start a podcast so that you can get connected with other people around. However, I wanted to make sure that we lay down a few things that you need before we even get there. And I want to let us know today that this this training is brought to you by the 5 Days to Podcast Challenge, free podcast challenge. We're doing a speakers edition this go round. I'm sharing the mistakes I made. I'm sharing what a successful launch looks like. And we're going in further detail there. It starts next week. So go to 5daystopodcast.com. All right. So the first thing that we must make sure that we have, all right. And well, actually, let me set it up like this. I want to lay out some challenges, right, before we even get into what we must have. And then I'm going to unpack those accordingly. So one of the biggest challenges that I've realized is talking with a lot of people, having a lot of calls, doing some trainings, doing lives, et cetera, et cetera. One of the biggest things people say is, John, who would listen to me? John, I don't know if I should start a podcast. John, I don't think that podcasting is for me. Hey there. So the first thing that we have to be aware of or be cognizant of is lack of confidence, right? Starting a podcast is going to put you out in front of other people that you might not know. Starting a podcast is going to put you in places and connect you with people to have conversations that you might not have had before. You might not have thought about these things. But ultimately, one of the biggest things or one of the biggest challenges that an individual will face is lack of confidence, because you're in a place, it's new, it's uncharted territory, and you're in this space because you're trying to figure out and learn something new. So lack of confidence is one thing or one challenge that I know holds a lot of people back. All right. So that's the first thing I want to just unpack right now. But something else I want to talk about is lack of attention to the audience. Lack of attention to the audience. If we are numb to the pulse of our audience, and if we're numb to the people that we're supposed to serve, that's a problem. Let me give a quick story. So I used to work at a restaurant, okay? And it was a restaurant that's known for, I'll say the restaurant, it was Red Lobster. They're known for the Cheddar Bay biscuits, right? People would love the Cheddar Bay biscuits. They love the Cheddar Bay biscuits. And then one day I was working with my coworker, And he walked over to the table and then he said, "Oh, I didn't know you're expecting." He said, "Oh, are you having a boy or are you having a girl?" The woman looked up at him and then she said, "Can you get the manager for me, please?" The manager came over to the table. The manager's like, "Well, what's going on? What's the problem, man? What happened? Is everything good? Is the food okay? How's your server treating you?" She said, "The food's fine, but your server just told me congrats on the baby, and I'm not expecting." So that showed that he had lack of attention to his audience at that time, because he's telling this woman congratulations on having a baby or on being pregnant, but she wasn't even pregnant. That's a major issue. Okay. The third thing is lack of organization. When I first started out my podcast, the thing that I struggled with was putting the pieces in place, right? I didn't know that it would be so much more beneficial if I had a system on when I could record episodes, if I had a system on how I could share episodes out, if I had ultimately a system to where I can cut my time in half or in a third or in a fourth. But lack of organization is something that will really hinder you. The fourth one is lack of preparedness. Are you preparing your content so that it can be palatable and so that people can easily digest what you're sharing here today? And like I said, hang out for a little bit, because I'm gonna lay out these challenges, but then I'm gonna give solutions to each challenge that I gave. Okay, I'm gonna present a solution to each challenge that I've given. So lack of preparedness, it's like, okay, just showing up and just trying to record a podcast, just showing up, just trying to do a speaking engagement. You can't do anything. You can't just show up and do anything and expect to get the optimal level of success. So lack of preparedness or lack of preparation, this is something that we also want to factor in. Hey, we're here. And the fifth one is lack of time management. Lack of time management is something that will be an Achilles heel. Okay. An Achilles heel is lack of time management. All right. So I want to lay out these challenges because these are 5 challenges that you will face starting out your podcast. But like I said before, I'm about to give you the solutions. Now we're about to go backwards. I'm about to give you the solutions. But before I do that, if you are not signed up for the 5 days to podcast challenge, 5 days to podcast challenge, I'm going to present to you the foundations of podcasting. I'm going to present to you 5 major takeaways. I'm going to share all my mistakes so that you don't make them. I'm going to share what you need to have a successful launch. I'm going to take time, help you identify your niche. I'm going to even help you identify a podcast purpose. In 5 days, we're going in depth each day, going a little bit deeper, going a little bit deeper, going a little bit deeper day by day by day. So get signed up for the 5 days to podcast challenge. You can go to 5days2podcast.com. All right. So now let's work backwards. So first, I said lack of time management is something that we will face, is one of the biggest challenges that you will face starting out as a podcaster. So how do we counter lack of time management? For one, we create a set day that we would record our podcast. We create a set time. And that's one thing that I've begun to do is I set Wednesdays as my day to record podcast episodes. I'll record and I'll edit on Wednesdays. So if you know time management is something that you struggle with, you can do like me. And I write down the things I have to do for a day, right? I write them down and I mark them off on the checklist. I always start out with like a big 3 things that I want to accomplish. And I make sure to hit those 3 things. And then I get the system in place, which is me writing down the things that I want to accomplish at the beginning of the week. And then knocking them off accordingly. If this is helping you and you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, just comment something in the chat box. Just comment like an amen or that's good, just so I know it's helping you. The other one, lack of preparation. Okay. If we want to talk about lack of preparation, how do we counter lack of preparation? We counter lack of preparation by way of preparing, by way of practicing. For me, my strategy is when I first started out, I would go into a Google Doc and then I would type, what's the topic that I want to address? Then I would go under and I would say, okay, based on this topic, what story do I have in my life that based on the topic I want to share today, what story can marry the topic to where it makes it easy for people to understand, right? So getting the topic, getting the story, and then me personally, I like to give 3 points. I typically like to give 3 points. So the thing for me is I'll hit you with the story. I'll weave the story in between each point. And then I make sure that at the end of the episode, you got everything that I told you were going to get. And then I recap, right? So give you one story, give you 3 principles, recap to make sure everybody received it. They took that thing away. And then, hey, that's how we can counter lack of preparation, because lack of preparation is something that we can control. We can control if we know we have a big presentation the next day, but we stay up all night. So if you know you have a big presentation, go to sleep a little bit earlier the night before. Just maybe, right? Just maybe. The third one is lack of organization. So for me in college, one thing I always realized was if I didn't put my books in my bag, if I didn't put my laptop in my bag, if I didn't put my notebook or my binder in my bag, then I would end up leaving. Delnita, what's going on? What's going on? My Get Paid with Podcasting family. Delnita, good to see you. Good to see you, Delnita. So I realized that not having the notebook, the laptop, and not having these things put in my backpack when I went to sleep that night, because I knew I would typically wake up late. I knew that I would oversleep. I need to have these things in my backpack so I could wake up, grab my backpack, and just go to class, right? So I had to get organized by saying, okay, let me put these things in the night before. And then for you with your podcast content, you can get organized weeks, months in advance. In our Get Paid with Podcasting program, that's what we talk about. We talk about what's a structure that you can put in place and how does that work for you most effectively, right? So find an organization that works best for you, or organizing style that works best for you. It might be you recording multiple episodes in a day. It might be you taking time to record on Monday, edit on Wednesday, promote it on Friday, whatever it might be. You want to make sure to have that organization. The second one is lack of attention to the audience. So often people have no idea what their audience wants because they never ask their audience. McDonald's, Burger King, all these other places, they have test groups where they bring people in. They ask people, what do you think about this burger? What do you think about this concept? So let me bring it. Let me make it personal, Mom. Let me make it personal story. Got my mom over here. Personal story. So the personal story for me would be, I was a part of a Nike test group, right? And they would let us, we would go meet them at a gym. There's a guy who had some Nike prototypes. And he would say, look, guys, I want you to try these shoes on. I want you to do these basketball drills. Then after each drill, he would ask us, how'd the shoe feel? How'd you like the cut? Like, how did it feel when you're cutting in the shoe or doing this or doing that in the shoe? And then we would give him feedback on that particular shoe, how it felt, the look of it, how heavy was it, how sleek was it, all those things. So you want to get the audience's attention by way of asking the audience. Okay. And then the last thing with lack of confidence, how do we counter lack of confidence? What does that look like? Ultimately, we counter lack of confidence by action. Because a few years ago, public speaking was the most feared thing. People feared it more than death. So at the end of the day, the question is, what are you so fearful of? Are you fearful of having a bad performance? Are you fearful of not being able to hit on the objectives? Because if that's the case, then you need to prepare to hit the objectives. If you're fearful of not presenting well polished, then you need to organize the presentation. But at the end of the day, with repetition and through action, you position yourself to capitalize on a high level and make sure that you are successful. All right. So I wanted to share with you all today. Once again, if you have not subscribed to us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Go to Jonathan Jones Speaks on YouTube. Type in Jonathan Jones Speaks as the name of our channel. Be sure to like and subscribe if this video added any value to you whatsoever. And if you're somebody who's looking to really learn how to get the foundations of podcasting down, I would encourage you to join our challenge. It's the speakers edition. This go around. It's the speakers edition. But you can go to 5days2podcast.com. We have that down in the subscription here on YouTube. But go to 5days2podcast.com and I will see you in the challenge, because podcasting this year is projected that podcast revenue would be over $1 billion. By 2025, it's projected to be just over 3 billion. So we're in the sweet spot in 2021. You have some years to get into that moolah. But everybody, thanks for rocking. Thanks for hanging out. It's your podcast mentor, Jonathan Jones, ultimately to where I help you position your brand. I help you then begin to build your platform. And then lastly, I help you profit. Take care, and we will talk soon.